Hi everyone. I'm continuing on with my trip through the westerns of 1972 as part of a much larger picture of the films of 1972. And today's will be Bad Company. Bad Company starring Jeff Bridges, Barry Brown. It is directed by Robert Benton and co-written by Benton and David Newman. It's set in the Civil War era. It's 1863. Barry Brown is playing a young man who is a draft dodger. He's trying to escape from the draft. The army's on his trail, but he is supported by his family because they have lost their oldest son already, and they don't feel like they should have to make another contribution to the war effort. But they're of good stock. They're good Methodists. They have high moral values, but they assist their son in his escape and his desire is to go west. He wants to go to Virginia City, which at that time was a big mining community, make his fortune as a prospector. But when he hits St. Joe's, Missouri, he quickly gets robbed of the money that he has on him. He has a hidden what seems like to be a sort of hidden fortune in his boots. But and this robber is played by Jeff Bridges, who takes him in, tries to be his friend, but quickly when they reach an alley, the friendship is just a delusion. But through circumstances, they meet up again, and he is forced by these circumstances to fall in with Jeff Bridges and his troupe of kind of boys and young men outlaws. And you sense right from the beginning that there's a friendship growing up between Barry Brown and Jeff Bridges, a bromance either, although it's a very rocky bromance. So he falls in with this troupe of Bad Company, and you can't help but be kind of reminded of Oliver Twist and Fagin and Bill Sykes and his band, because they're doing this band of Bad Company are doing all kinds of little con tricks to get enough money to finance their trip out west, because they too want to go out west. So Barry Brown falls in with this motley group of young people but they quickly find out as they leave St. Joe and they're going through the wheat fields of Kansas that the world is just as inhospitable out there in the middle of nowhere as it is back in the big city, and they're robbed by a group of thieves, and they quickly come to believe that they may have bit off a little bit more than they can chew, and their dreams of go west young man meet some disillusionment when they meet people coming back and don't go west. There's nothing out there, but nothing out there but even worse situation than you're coming from. And one of the interesting elements of the film is that Barry Brown, coming from good stock, he doesn't really want to be part of bad guy. He doesn't want to be a thief. So it's how does he maintain his moral compass of his Methodist upbringing in such an evil world? And one of the interesting aspects of the film is the comic tone that all this film develops. It's kind of like a ballad. But then it's interrupted by jarring moments of sudden violence. And this is very reminiscent of the tone from Bonnie and Clyde. That was Newman and Benton's first screenplay, and of course was a phenomenon about 4 or 5 years before Bad Company. And Benton has a very low-key approach to his method of storytelling, which also makes the violence even more intense. And he pretty much gives up this violent tone as he goes forward and delves more into the psychology of relationships, which is very good here as far as the psychology of the relationship between Jeff Bridges and Barry Brown. And Benton wins, that approach really pays off for him in Kramer versus Kramer in the late 70s when he won a bunch of Academy Awards. The film is really aided too by Gordon Willis's cinematography. It's just fantastic cinematography, and this, you can see it despite this is a DVD. This film Bad Company is not available on Blu-ray, which is kind of a travesty. And but even on the DVD, you can really sense the beauty of Willis's talents. And 1972 was the same year of The Godfather, and Gordon Willis was the cinematographer of The Godfather as well. And there's a beautiful score by Harvey Schmidt. He was mostly a very successful Broadway composer. And it's a piano score, and I don't like these kind of tinkly piano scores that get on my nerves, but this is very slow, it's very evocative, and he hits just the right notes at the right moments in his piano score. The supporting cast is superb. The group of thieves that besets these young people on their journey, they're actually beset twice by these groups of thieves. They're inept, but their leader isn't, and he's played by David Huddleston in a very, very comic wry performance. And it's said to be that it's based on Joseph Mankiewicz, the longtime classic Hollywood writer and director, because Benton and Newman had worked with him on a previous movie, a Western called There Was a Crooked Man, and they thought he was a real character, so they put a lot of Joe Mankiewicz into the David Huddleston characterization. And part of the Outlaws, you see Jeffrey Lewis, Ed Lautner, just big supporting actors of the 1970s, and part of the group is John Savage, Gary Grimes, and the Kids Band. The star Barry Brown had a very sad career. He has another starring role in Peter Bogdanovich's Daisy Miller, then did some TV work. He suffered from severe depression at the age of 27, only a few years after Bad Company commits suicide. But this is a film, this is Jeff Bridges, this isn't his breakout movie. Last Picture Show, I think, came the year before, where he got great notices. In 1972, he also appeared in Fat City and got even better notices, the John Huston film, boxing movie with Stacy Keach. And his whole career really is, I was looking over his filmography, and I know that the dude sort of is the big thing that people will remember, the big role that people will remember from The Big Lebowski. But boy, Jeff Bridges was in some really overlooked movies, The Fabulous Baker Boys. When I was looking over the filmography, I thought, well, geez, I could do a whole series on all these Jeff Bridges films that have been overlooked, forgotten, because there's a whole lot of them in there. And of course, this is Jeff Bridges' movie star charisma. The role he's playing in here contains so much of the charm, the endearing charm that he has continued on for decades. So next up will be The Cowboys with John Wayne. How can you do a series of westerns and not include a John Wayne western? And then I'll conclude with Burt Lancaster and Ozana's Raid, another film I really liked when I saw it back in 1972. And I'm doing these I think at least the plan is to do the next two movies in consecutive days, and then take a little bit of a breather, and then I'll get back to some more recent releases from Criterion and Flicker Alley, and then next month I'll probably do black cinema, blaxploitation, some other movies, including a Western, Buck and the Preacher. I could have done that as part of this Western series, which was directed by Sidney Poitier, starring him and Harry Belafonte. And I'll probably do one series per month through the rest of the year, if my health continues to be good. At least that's the plan. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen to me. Comments are welcome. I've gotten some great recommendations from from viewers. In fact, I wasn't going to include the Cowboys, but it was recommended by one of the comments, and I thought, well, yeah, why not? So I've included that one as well. But I love getting recommendations of movies that you guys love from 1972. Okay, again, thanks for everybody who listened. You guys take care.